What's up, guys? Welcome to episode 35 of Crave the Book. In today's episode, we're going to be covering chapters 73 through 75 of Tracy Wolff's Crush. And in this episode, we are finally going to play Ludares after a long-awaited period with Grace not knowing what the heck she's doing. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. What is up, guys? Welcome to episode 35. Things went a little wonky with last week's episode. If you listen from Spotify, or who knows, it might have affected the other platforms as well. But the episode ended up posting late. It didn't post until today, May 2nd, though it was supposed to post on, I think it was the 27th was when our last episode was supposed to air.
Oops.
Yeah. So if that ever happens and you notice that, hey, it's a Wednesday and the podcast didn't post, always check our YouTube channel. And if you see that the episode has aired on YouTube, but it hasn't aired on Spotify, feel free to comment on the YouTube video and say, hey, check Spotify and make sure that it's syncing up, because apparently there is an issue where it won't sync correctly. But all is fixed now. It's almost like you get a double episode this week. Super special.
And it's never happened before, so clearly it was a fluke.
It had to have been. I don't know, because it showed that the episode was there, like it was uploaded, but then when you clicked on it, there was just, it didn't play anything.
Oh. Well,
it's a mystery.
Well, hopefully it will be back to normal this week.
But on the bright side, guys, over on the Crave the Book Podcast YouTube channel, which is the only place where you can access our weekly Crave ASMRs for your reading pleasure and ambience, I spent a butt ton of time this week creating a Ludares practice ASMR. I've been working on it for like a month now, and it is now posted, but the timing could not have been more perfect. Didn't plan it this way, but today's episode is the Ludares episode of Crush, so it all worked out perfectly. But before we get into it, I definitely will have some spoilers today. So Amber, do you want to tell them what sound they should listen out for in case they don't want to have the series spoiled for them?
Yes. So just like every other week, except last week because of issues, you need to be looking out for, or listening out for, should I say, the wolf howl. It plays every week. It sounds like this. And it just to signify that everything before that howl was specific to the episode. So it will be based on the chapters that we have read for today. And then everything after the howl will quite likely be a spoiler. And we don't want to ruin it for you if you have not read that far ahead. So if you have not read as far as, let me have a look at the notes.
It's going to be,
It's going to be court.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, if you haven't read up until court, then just drop out and feel free to come back. We're not going anywhere. These episodes will stay up forever unless Spotify dies.
But it'll be everywhere else.
I mean, wherever else. But yeah, just come back later because we don't want to ruin any surprises. Yes. There are lots and lots of twists and revelations in court that we'd rather just keep for ourselves right now.
Absolutely. And I've got some theories that are court related, so we will get into those in just a little while. But assuming that you are caught up to at least chapters 73 to 75 of Crush, it is the big tournament day. Today is the day in the book when Grace is finally going to play Ludares after basically learning nothing about how to play the game. So that's exciting and terrifying. They have not equipped her with the tools necessary to be able to do this.
No, they've given her like no forewarning either. Like the amount of things that she's finding out 2 minutes before the game is concerning.
Yeah. And normally it's Hudson is the voice of reason through all of this, but he tells her
he's gone AWOL.
Yeah, he says that he's going to be gone for a few hours because he needs to go do something. And I'm just wondering to myself, like, okay, he's gonna be gone for how does this whole existing in Grace's head work? Because he has to be with her. That's why when she was riding Flint, he popped up beside her. But now he's going to be gone for a few hours. So is he just nestling deeper into her head?
I don't know. Because we don't really find out anything specific about what he's doing during the moments where he is gone. Because even if he's doing like research or something like that, they're still in the library. He's still got to go quite far away from her.
Yeah,
Maybe, do you think it's like an elastic band? Like he has like a certain amount of distance that he can get before it pings back.
He's on a little leash.
Yeah.
He snaps at the end and he's just like, dong. Maybe it's like, when a dog runs around a tree and they like wind themselves up.
Yes.
It's like that. And then he gets frustrated and then he's got to run the other way.
Yeah. Or he's on a flexi lead and she just needs to push the button and it retracts. Like, come here, like a tape measure.
Yeah. So I don't know about you, but my first time reading through Crush, the colorful jerseys that Macy created, she's got like everybody else, I assume they've got like their like crust looking flags hanging everywhere, kind of like, like the stands in a Quidditch match. She said that everybody else's have kind of like drab colors. And then I'm just imagining like crazy tie-dye, like flags everywhere.
She says kaleidoscope, which is even more crazy.
Yeah.
It's like a mosaic.
Yeah. So I remember, and I did that. I've got that wallpaper / little animation that I post to our stories every once in a while that says, "Bro, do you even Ludares?" And I made a mock of the jersey. For those who are watching on YouTube, I'll toss it on the screen real quick. But I made like a mock-up of what I thought that it would look like. And I thought that it would be super cool to maybe someday do a giveaway for one of those, because they are quite expensive to like order custom. But that might be a fun thing that we could give away.
We could do some tie-dye.
Yeah, do the all over print on the tie-dye.
Yep.
That would be so fun. What do you guys think? Let us know.
I would never wear it.
Yeah, we'll give it away.
Certain complexions just don't deal well with all the colors.
I dig tie-dye. I wear lots of tie-dye.
My personality is a rainbow. I do not need to accessorize with rainbow.
Well, I'm sure that there are some audience members who would dig wearing a cool tie-dye Katmere Ludares. We could even put like Ludares competitor on it, because we did the Ludares coach hoodie. That'd be fun. Yeah. All right, next notes are yours.
Yes. So Grace compares the stadium where they're playing the Ludares as very much like a Roman Colosseum. Mm-hmm. And I was wondering whether you have anything out there that's anything like Roman.
1800s is as old as it goes here. We don't have anything older than that.
I didn't know whether you had like any replicas or anything.
No, there's nothing like that in the U.S. We have Native American burial grounds, but those aren't very big. Those are usually a hill. No, it's like a hill with grass on it.
So, like, when you are at school age in the UK, you get to go on a lot of school trips. And a lot of them are to, like, Danebury Fort and places like that. There are Roman baths and things like that are very just historically preserved. And we have those kind of interactive villages where you go and there's like actors who will pretend to not know what a mobile phone is and things like that. And
we have
I just remember
too.
just going, yeah, but I just remember going and thinking, wow, the Roman era was just really disappointing. Like everything sounded really boring. Like everyone just went around and spent their time just eating and bathing.
Bathing. I'm sure that's what they did at bathhouses, Amber.
Yeah. They just like bathing and oiling themselves up.
No, we had, Like the episode of South Park with the Pioneer Village.
Yes.
That's about as far back as it goes here. Well, yeehaw, I ain't ever seen no cellular phone.
So yeah, I had a lot of like childhood memories where I would go to like these kind of really shitty villages, really, or like remnants of a Roman villa that was like there was nothing really left apart from rubble. And then I went to Rome for a week. Standing in the Colosseum, you realize just how small you are. And that's how I'm imagining Grace feeling. Is that like walking in and thinking like, oh, I've got this. And then walking into a stadium full of people and it's all kind of turreted and Colosseum-like. And I can just remember just that feeling of just the scale of myself within the universe, within this city, within this building is so minuscule. Like, how on earth can I even achieve what I set out to do today? And that's without sports being involved. All I had to do was press a button on an audio guide. Like, I didn't have to perform or enact anything. All I had to do was press buttons. But yeah, the feeling of like being overwhelmingly small is a huge feeling that I feel when I went to the Colosseum.
Yeah, the closest thing that we could have is like maybe going to like an old football field somewhere. I'm pretty sure.
But that's what I was thinking. Like, Grace is American. She's from San Diego, so I was wondering like whether there is anything out there to even compare it to see whether her comparison was realistic.
No. That we don't have
rubbish.
And nothing even comparable other than modern sports, and any stadiums out there are still used. They don't just leave a giant stadium unoccupied. They'll either tear it down or use it. So
you don't have any Aztec temples just lying around there?
No. Maybe Mexico. There's we've got some pyramids there.
Oh.
But no, not here.
We'll have to take you to one of our forts. Because you guys don't really have castles either.
No, we have some castles in Ohio that apparently the guy was like, he lived in Ireland and he had his castles deconstructed and put on a boat and brought here and then reassembled. And
why would you bother?
And they're not like castles. They're like mansions.
Mansions.
Yeah. They're not even that big. They just look pretty. So
no, we have like ruins of castles everywhere, and they're so unimportant that they're just like historical landmarks. Like, they're not open to the public where you can like pay for a ticket. You just literally walk up to it and touch the rock and go, cool. Super cool. Now let's go, because there's no roof and it's cold. But like even Stonehenge as well. Like, I thought that Stonehenge was huge, and it's not. You go up and you go, oh, those stones, like the individual rocks are huge, but as a joint package, it's not very big. And I recently found out that they swapped the rocks a few years ago. They're not even the real rocks. I feel cheaped out. Rubbish.
Are they allowed to touch landmarks like that? You're not allowed to do that here. You're not allowed to. You have to leave. Yeah. Leave things, even if they're like falling apart, you have to leave them alone.
The thing is, I think they realized that it's been there for thousands and thousands of years. One person touching it is not going to really make a difference. So therefore, they feel like that probably more people would touch it if they said don't touch it. You can't touch Stonehenge because you can't get close, except for like summer solstice and winter solstice. But there are just sheep living in the field with them. Those sheep are bound to be like rubbing their horns up against it and doing stuff against the rocks to be able to like wear them down. So what difference is me putting a finger on it going to do? Yeah. Anyway, so that was the Colosseum note. I also put that like ears like a dragon. Grace tries to sneak up on Flint. And Flint, like, notices her. And she's like, oh, man, how did you know it was me? And he said, oh, yeah, well, there's a reason the saying ears like a dragon exists. And she's like, what? No, it doesn't. And I think, like, you know that moment where you feel immediately uncomfortable or awkward and you just start making shit up that doesn't even make sense anymore just for sake of conversation? I feel like he was in that, like, mode.
Like,
where he was like, I'm just
be.
going to... Yeah, it should be. I'm trying to make you laugh. Just laugh and accept the humor. Even if it doesn't make sense, just deal with it.
I just imagined a dragon with, like, human ears.
They don't have ears. Like, if you think about, like...
them little flipper things on the... You know what I mean? The little...
the flippy days.
Yeah, like the little fins that kind of come off.
Oh.
Anytime
I kind of imagined, like... bearded dragon where it's just like a hole.
A hole. I always picture like how not like a frilled lizard, but I don't know. Most dragons have like when you see them drawn, they have a fin.
Ear tassels.
Yeah, bedazzled ear tassels that blow in the wind.
Bedazzled.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So my next note: how much of Grace's sudden panic do you relate to, where she starts suggesting what ifs that don't even make sense?
Well, not to the extent that she did, because she was like, oh, I could break my leg. Would you guys get disqualified if I fell down the steps? What if I did this? What if I did that?
Can you play with just 7 players? Like, can you do this? Can you do this? What if I develop a sudden shellfish allergy? And that just made me just like laugh out loud, because I have been known to do that. My what ifs just get more outlandish.
You did it this morning.
Did I?
Yeah, with the interview, you're like, what if people are sick of hearing me? What if people don't want to hear me during your interview? What if people are sick of hearing about me? Like, shut up, Amber.
What if they don't even like me? What if they just think... Yeah, that is me. I think worst case scenario and I run with it. And apparently Grace's worst case scenario, because it's the last one that she mentions, is sudden shellfish allergy. Like, what would that even hinder?
Yeah, what are they eating right before this game?
Yeah.
The clam bucket laying over to the side? Are you cracking oysters?
She just sat there with like a prawn ring. It's like, Yeah. So yeah, that just, it made me giggle, because I was like, oh yeah, that's me. And I think that the problem is I'm going to take that and add it to the end of one of my what if scenarios and really throw whoever the other person is that's listening. And it's like, I'm talking about something completely unrelated. And I'm like, but what if I develop a sudden shellfish allergy?
Well, I mean,
and they're like, it'll break the tension, certainly, wouldn't it?
Well, you already don't like shellfish, so it already fits.
Yeah, but yeah, maybe I am allergic. I'll never know.
You'll never know because you won't touch it.
Absolutely not putting my fingers anywhere near anything that lived in a shell.
Sea bugs.
No. I think that I probably would have had a better time if it wasn't covered in butter. I think the butter added to the ick.
Slimy,
It just
glistening.
Like, ew. And it had like fur. I was not expecting
it's not fur. They're
a crab.
They're spikes. King crabs are covered in little like barbs, like thorns.
Why would you eat that?
You don't eat that. You eat what's inside it. A delicious.
Why would
fish.
they not just serve it to you without that?
Because people like the barbaric sensation of destroying an animal and cracking it to bits and then eating the meat from inside of it.
Ugh.
It's part of the experience.
See, I don't get the same feeling when when you roast a chicken and you've had your meal, but then you go back to the carcass and you start just picking the little bits off.
And
I like that.
You feel like a vulture.
But I couldn't do it with a crab. I just couldn't touch it.
Well, birds, I mean, I would say that a chicken is significantly more sentient than a crab.
It wasn't the like, oh, but this used to be a bug or a disgusting creepy crawly. I physically couldn't touch it without feeling ugh. I have no words for the sensation I felt. Disgust. Absolute abhorrent disgust at what was on my fingers.
Well, we now Amber's going to stick to the shellfish allergy. That way she never has to encounter another shellfish again. And no one can debate it. Because if you say you're allergic, people will be like, oh, let me take I'll just take my plate over here and not bother you. I don't want to. And then you won't even have to look at shellfish.
Just bring me a bowl of the Cheddar Bay biscuits and I will be very happy.
I mean, yeah.
And crispy sprouts.
That's why people go to Red Lobsters to get the Cheddar Bay biscuits.
Seriously, guys, we went to Red Lobster. Our bill came to what was it like? Over $100.
Oh, yeah.
And all I ate was one Cheddar Bay biscuit and a bowl of sprouts. Well, I couldn't eat anything.
Speaking of hot biscuits coming out.
Loved that segue. Wow.
This is the scene where Flint comes out. And I want to say that when I first read this scene, I was on vacation in the woods in the middle of Pennsylvania. I remember I woke up super duper early and I had my cup of coffee and I was out in the middle of the woods in the mountains and there was like mist on the mountains and all the morning birds and everything was dewy. And I sat down on like the patio chairs with my hot, steamy coffee, and I read this scene, and I was shocked. Because nobody was reading the series yet when I read this, part. I wasn't like any communities. I was reading them, right when like Covet came out. And yeah, I was just like, oh my God. And
you ruined it a bit for me.
Did I?
You did. Before I had even started reading Crave, you said, yeah, and there's a real prominent gay character, but there's like, he's not actually like gay as a trope. He's homosexual and that's it. Like there is no.
Yeah, I was pitching the series to you, trying to get you to read it.
Yeah, but I was reading Crave the whole time, like one of these people.
Which one?
Gay. Which one is gay? And I was like, there is a very few people that it was going to be. And my thought was Uncle Finn, and that was why the wife had left.
Oh, hey, that might be it. We don't know. Could be true.
So yeah, I spent the entirety of Crave and beginning of Crush just going, who is this person?
Yeah. And, I think that the only reason I was shocked was that because I thought for sure that in Crave, Flint was putting the moves on Grace. But in this scene, she says like, oh, like he always seemed like he was trying too hard. And I'm like, you know what? Now that I think about it, in the library, he was trying too hard. It was one of those things where I was suspicious of him, but then I wasn't suspicious that he was the bad guy at that point. I was just kind of suspicious. So it does make sense that he wasn't acting like, I don't know. He wasn't acting like a guy flirting in the way that Tracy writes other male characters flirting. Like, he was acting very cute, but at the same time, he was also acting strange. And I just summed it up to, okay, he's doing the research with, trying to figure out what Leah's up to. But yeah, maybe there was more to it than that. Maybe it was like I need to make Grace think that I like her so she'll be comfortable with me so I can make sure that Hudson doesn't come back. But like, I feel like Flint was just tying himself in all of these like this tangle of lies. And then when he finally was able to come out, I think like he started crying because it's like Grace immediately accepted him. There was no judgment. She was like, oh, that's great. And he's like, that's great. Like he
didn't realize that emotions could be tied to this other than like negative ones.
Yeah, and that's why I love that scene so much, because like I remember reading it and just being like, oh my God. Like I was just so shocked that, because I thought for sure that he was like still after her. Like I thought that the love triangle was going to turn, because we had Hudson incorporated in, we've had
Love Square.
Flint. Yeah, I was like, is this going to be Jackson, Flint, and Hudson now? So, yeah. But when Flint kind of looks longingly at Jackson after Jackson kind of comes out of the, whatever, comes into the stadium with everybody else right before the game. And Grace looks and kind of trails Flint's eyes and sees where he's looking and realizes like, oh shit, this is who Jackson is, the other guy that Flint's been talking about that, is emotionally unavailable. Just the way that she says it, like, it still gives me like those neck goosebumps when I read it, because it's so sad to think back to all of the scenes where Flint has been looking at Jackson and watching Jackson and, almost acting like he's flirting with Grace, maybe to try to get a reaction out of Jackson. And then it just it all makes sense. Like, and then you realize how freaking sad like it is that he's had to watch from afar.
I also like the reason, so the way that Grace interacts with Flint afterwards isn't so much I'm the reason that his love was never reciprocated. She doesn't blame Jackson. She doesn't blame herself. She doesn't blame Flint. She just goes and suddenly gets very uncomfortable and awkward with PDAs with Jackson in front of him. But at the same time, I'm like, you've been uncomfortable with PDAs and private PDAs for this entire book. So nothing's really changed.
Yeah, it's good that she's being more conscious, though. Just like, if you were in like a friend group and I don't know, there was somebody who like at one time like had dated your husband and then you immediately like got with him, but you were still friends with that person, like, would you not like at least attempt to,
be considerate?
Yeah. I mean, there are some people who are like, no, I'd slobber all over my husband in front of. I think that it just depends on the situation, I guess. But yeah, I think that
I also noticed that Flint never asked her to keep it to herself.
He did say that she was the only one that he'd told, though. So
but it wasn't like a that sort of barrier of trust is that when somebody tells you a secret, they kind of just assume that you're going to tell your husband.
And they specifically have to say, don't tell anyone.
Yeah. But he didn't, because he knew that she wouldn't.
Yeah, I think that he confided in her because he knew that she wouldn't say anything. And he knew that everybody was about to find out anyway, because Luca's at the game. Like, he said that he knows that everybody's about to find out anyway.
Yeah. But it wasn't just about Luca, who we haven't found out yet, I don't think, in this. By the way, guys, it's Luca.
Whoops.
But also that he's been in love with Jackson this entire time. Grace probably could have told Jackson. Not that it would have changed anything, but it probably would have been something that Jackson could have used in order to help, like how he behaved and acted around Flint following. But she doesn't. He doesn't find out ever, does he?
Like,
it doesn't come out in one big revelation.
Not that we see.
It's just it's just something that he's like, yeah, this used to happen, and now I don't follow him after like a lost puppy anymore. And then that was the end of the conversation.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was just nice to read a character that found out. It wasn't devastating secret, but it was quite. It was a big secret for multiple people.
Yeah.
And for her to find this out, but then not do anything with it except adjust her own attitudes to it, that was really nice to read.
To hold it. It's like, okay, I've got this big heavy rock and I don't need you to do anything with it. I don't need you to carry it anywhere with you. I just need you to hold it for a minute until I'm ready to take it back and carry it as well. And I think that's how I see it, because he's got a lot of weight that he's got to carry around, because he also, well, I guess that would be a spoiler, so I can't talk about that. That's covet. That's covet talk.
No spoilers.
No spoilers. Okay, I'll hold.
Spoily, no spoilers.
Spoily, no spoilers. Spoily, no spoilers. We need a character. We need like a little dragon that pops out. Okay, well, I'll save that for later. So they go and sit in the stands to watch the first of the people compete, the first teams, and Jackson's like, it works the way human March Madness does. And I'm just like, my note here just says me, a football idiot, question mark.
What the fuck is March Madness?
Yeah. I don't know how March Madness works because I don't know.
Me neither.
It sounds like madness to me.
March Madness.
Well, I'm assuming that several teams play,
it's a basketball tournament.
It's process. Oh, is it? I said football. Yeah, it's like process of elimination, though. Process of elimination type game.
Yep. I thought that it was like a sports analogy term, whatever you want to call it, for the way that the tournament is like judged.
Oh, no.
Not like it works like a round robin kind of thing, but no, turns out it's an entire tournament that's already been named. Whoopsie.
Yeah, I did know that.
We've learned things today.
Yeah, I knew because I mean it's a huge thing here, but I just didn't know like how it worked. But now the book has taught me something. So
we still don't know how it works.
Get a game with process of elimination where you end up after a lot of teams compete and win, then the remaining teams, after everybody's competed against each other, they eliminate each other out until there's only one team.
But isn't that how all sports?
Yes, except this one is pure madness. It's just it's absolute madness.
It's absolute madness, and it's not even in March. In fact, I have no idea what month this is in.
I know we haven't gotten an update on when. I mean, we could probably figure it out since Grace got gargoyled in November, and then she was asleep for 3 months, and it's only been.
Maybe it is March.
hey, it might be November, December, January, February. She would have woke up in March.
Wow.
Well, hell.
Maybe they're playing basketball. We don't know anything.
We know nothing. So I wanted to note that the bracelets, the magical bracelets that they have to wear that keep them from being deaded while getting fireballs thrown at them and bitten and clawed and whatever. I have one of those. And Tangled Teen sent me one. It's just like one of those like jelly bracelets. But it says Ludares.
I want to see it.
I will. I'll send you a picture.
I want to see it. I will.
And then Macy putting little star stickers on each of Finn's cheeks. It gave me life. That was the best. And you know what's funny is I made that note, and then when I messaged Amber this morning, we use Marco Polo, which is like a webcam, like walkie-talkie, phone cam walkie-talkie, where you can send little video messages. But I wasn't even thinking that I made this note, and I had one of those stupid star sticker things for when you have like a pimple and you stick it on your face, and I didn't realize it was on my face until I was messaging her, and then I started talking, realized that I had a star sticker like on my eyebrow, and then I needed to stop what I was saying so I could explain why I was talking to her with a sticker on my face.
I think you're going to need to put one on your cheeks now and take pictures, do some selfies for the Instagram.
No, I've got a zit. I can't.
Oh. Well, when it disappears, because that could be Wednesday by then. Just what I really love is that kind of tidbit from that scene. Not many people would remember the star stickers.
Yeah.
So you could put them on the cheeks. use it as the thumbnail and be like, guess what we're talking about today? Like aubergines. Nobody would remember what aubergines or eggplants was about.
No. Well, I mean,
or Consentasaurus T-Rex.
Yeah, that one specific. The eggplants are more. They were brought up several times during the series, though.
Are they?
In reference to the uniforms?
Just the uniform?
Yeah.
Oh.
It's brought up in Covet, too, that they look like big eggplants. But, yeah. And then Hudson, of course, he turns and he's got a sticker on his cheek, too.
Which he had to do himself, which is adorable.
He chose that.
He had to channel his inner sticker lord.
He's in a really good mood. I wonder what he went. Oh, so that's what he went and did. Never mind.
What? I don't even know what to sort through that.
What do most boys do when they disappear for several hours before watching a girl do sports? Yeah.
Warm up.
Uh-huh. And now he's in a great mood. He's got a sticker on his cheek.
He has zero ego to make sure that he doesn't act like a macho man.
Yeah.
Well, you've cracked.
I've cracked the code. I've got it. He was busy, Amber. He was busy. He was doing something.
So I have a question.
Okay.
What the fuck is funnel cake?
Are you serious? Funnel cake is like, imagine taking donut batter and you put it into a almost like a squeeze bottle, and you squeeze it over top of deep fry oil so that you have almost like this cool pattern of donut. You can do like any shapes that you want. Most people just kind of squirt it into just like a big circle and swirl it. But you have like these little itty bitty crispy donut, like it's almost like straw, but it's one big continuous piece. And they just happen to draw these in the Katmere Academy crust, but they're deep fried. And it's basically like donut. But that smothered in strawberries and sugar and like that deep fried, just terrible for you food is the worst thing that you could eat before 4 rounds of intense exercise. And then Xavier got several gallons of lemonade to pair with it. Like that. That is a lot of sugar to digest right before you're about to do exercise, Grace. You should try to get a little bit, just a little bit of protein in there too.
I've just Googled them. They look a mess.
They are very messy, but you get them at like the fair or at like carnivals, at the circus. They're not like you have to be at like an event. They do them a lot, like, you know, events where there's going to be kids. They'll make funnel cakes.
Oh. Okay.
Usually it's like you have to like usually walk up to like one of those like food trucks to get a funnel cake.
I see. It looks like a pancake that somebody didn't like make sure was entirely flat. A lumpy pancake.
It's like if you cooked a donut just a little too long and the outside got kind of crispy, but the inside stayed like fluffy donut consistency. Ew. That's what they taste like. They're very good. It's just they're not something that you could just like eat a bunch of. I would get sick. But okay. Next note, Amber, what the hell is a slack-jawed numbie? Because that's who did Hudson call? He called somebody a slack-jawed numbie.
I didn't even register it, so I have no idea.
Yeah, so Grace heard Hudson mumble something about Hudson called somebody a slack-jawed numbie.
So slack-jawed, do you know what slack-jawed means?
Yeah.
That tends to be for somebody who doesn't keep their mouth shut.
Yeah.
And numbie, not nummy.
Numbie.
So nummy, I suppose you could use as like something that has no pain, but as a insult, I would say numbie, which is we just like making stuff up, okay? Like Like, you could call anybody anything, and said in the right tone, the right intonation, you know it's an insult. And you would also know that it's praise. Like, oh, you absolute belter.
You stupid grumbo.
Exactly. Just make shit up, say it with a British accent, and it will be uncanny. No one will even know that you're from anywhere else. I mean,
what was that word? What was that word? I sent you a Marco Polo like 2 nights ago. We were watching some watching some British guy on YouTube. I don't even remember what the video was or what he said. But I Marco Polo'd you at like 1 a.m. to say, Amber, what does this word mean?
That meant great or like big or whatever.
I can't remember.
There's a word in Somerset where I grew up, and it was girt. It's spelled G-E-R-T, girt, and you can say like, oh, that's girt lush, and that means like that is like really. But you say like, oh, it's a girt big, which is like a really big. I found out that Scott, where he's from, say bear. So if you've got a lot of money, you say you've got bear money. We just make shit up. I would literally, you can just make shit up, and most people just go, all right, I understood 90% of that. Sure.
Have you not to, move too far away from the podcast, but Johnny Depp calling, when he was pointing out the whole Amber Heard pooping in the bed, he said that she dropped a grumpy.
Yep.
And I lost my mind at that choice of words in a high pressure court situation, just choosing not to say defecated. Like he said, she dropped a grumpy.
She dropped a fat deuce.
She dropped a grumpy.
It reminds me of the again, back to South Park, the South Park episode where they just start naming different names for poo.
We are children, guys. I am 30 years old, and I still laugh every time somebody calls poop by a funny name. But so Hudson starts explaining how this game is played right now. Grace is in the stands eating her funnel cake, literally about to go play the game. And Hudson is just now explaining how this game is to be started.
Yep.
Like, what?
I think they want themselves to fail.
They're not prepping her. I think that they just assume she isn't going to do anything. They're just like, okay.
Well, I think that comes out when because Jackson names Flint as team captain. He's like, are you serious? Yeah. Like, you're team captain. Like, there's no other name for it. You are team captain. And when Flint goes to do his like pep talk before the game, and they were like, Jackson, you do this, and you do this, and then they turn to Grace and go, you,
don't die, stand over here.
Just the way the Flint just kind of goes, you, just be our secret weapon. That's what you tell a child.
Yeah.
That's what you tell a child when they think that they're helping you. You are our secret weapon. You are crucial to this task. Everything that you do is paramount to our success, even if you do nothing.
You are important. You are special.
You are valued.
You are valuable. Stay the hell out of the way and stand over here.
And do not move. Even if the ball is coming your way, just let it fall to the ground.
Let a more capable paranormal grab it.
Yeah.
Yeah. We got another fantastic blimp reference where they were referring to how many flyers that they had on the team, because they've got Flint, they've got Eden, they've got Grace, and they included Jackson in there. And Hudson points out once again that he doesn't fly, he floats. And then he says, too bad there's a roof on this place. If we were lucky, he could just float away. And I just imagined like the physics of a balloon caught in the wind with like the little string hanging on it, just how it floats up into the sky. Just imagining Jackson just
And there's just a sad child underneath him, like, oh. I thought it was really funny when Grace is clearly trying to like not laugh. Have you ever been in a situation where like you can't laugh?
Yes.
You are not allowed to laugh, and yet the funniest thing has happened. And it doesn't even have to be that funny, but your brain is going, don't laugh, don't laugh, don't laugh, don't laugh, don't laugh. And therefore, it is even harder to stop yourself. And the problem is, it's an involuntary thing. No one consciously thinks about laughing to a joke. You can absolutely fake laugh, but you cannot stop a genuine laugh. It will just come out. And it just bubbles from the lips. Just
That's the worst as a parent when my child does something absolutely just idiotic, but it's funny. And she's really upset about it. But it's one of those things that I know that she'll laugh about it later. But in that moment, she is furious. And I'm just like trying so hard. She was convinced because I you know what? There's the Easter Bunny, there's Santa Claus, there's the Tooth Fairy. Okay. But she was convinced that we had a leprechaun that would come every St. Patrick's Day. And I perpetuated this because she thought that, and I would leave her gifts from the leprechaun every year, except she's 10 years old now. This year on St. Patrick's Day, we decided to break it to her that there's no leprechaun. It's me that's been leaving her leprechaun gifts every year. And her little face crinkled up, and I watched her eyes rim over with tears, and I could feel that she felt really dumb. And I was just like, no, come here. It's okay. And like, I could see that she was getting really upset, but I couldn't stop laughing.
It's like, okay, like the Santa Claus thing, like all the other children perpetuate it as well. But the leprechaun, nobody else has a leprechaun. She's the only child with one.
I know. I don't know where it came from either, because I didn't start it. I thought it was cute. I was like, oh. But when she's 10 years old and she's like going to school and like she's got older boys, they're like, bruh. But anyway.
I like to think of her going to school and just going, well, I got my gift from the leprechaun. What did you get? And everybody's like, fucking leprechaun. And she's like, well, I don't know what you did this year to make him not want to leave you a gift.
She was starting to get suspicious anyway. So it's like, you know.
Also, when because we stayed over right when you were doing Elf on a Shelf every morning, and I remember you just like at 1 a.m. you're like, fuck, forgot the elf. We'd have to come up with a sudden like, what do we do for the elf? What do we do for the elf?
We should point out real quick that if you have kids in the room, maybe make them leave. Don't want to ruin the magic for anybody.
We've had a month from hell. And I think these podcasts are a way of us going, do you know what? We'll talk about rubbish. We're reading silly books.
And talking about silly things.
Yeah. We're talking about things that don't matter because they're supernatural things. So therefore,
everything's canon.
Yeah.
Elf on the Shelf is canon. Leprechauns are canon. Okay. It's all canon.
I bet Hudson had an elf on the shelf.
I bet he did. Jackson has a horse on the shelf, which is like Elf on the Shelf.
Do you reckon that they would not be like Christmas elves though? They would be like supernatural elves.
Like they're like Lord of the Rings, like beautiful elves, and they're just walk out. And
size.
There's like a dude just sitting on your shelf, like with his knees like crammed up. Thank God you're awake.
It's just helping yourself to cereal, like.
Sup?
It's like a Cheerio is the size of a donut for him.
So during this whole thing, like everybody else on the team, they're so caught up in their own excitement. Jackson's like, I am so excited. I finally get to play Ludares. And like everybody's just like, you know, oh man, this shit's going to be crazy. Haha, hope we don't die. Hee. And Hudson's the only one who's taking the time to like talk directly to Grace and make her laugh. And he's like doing silly things. He does like he tells her to break a wing and she gets all upset. And he's like, no, I said it in a break a hip context.
Break a leg.
Or a break a leg context. And then he tells her to break a hip because she's like, what am I, like 90? And then as she's going out to the field, he says, break a hip. But it makes her smile.
Yep.
And laugh. So he's like the only one who's doing anything helpful right now. As always. So
I also like that he's not really cheering during the game either. He's nowhere. And I think that is him giving her all of his power. Like, he doesn't want to leech anything from her, so he just kind of retreats.
Good theory. I figured that he was just shutting up because she told him that she needed to she said, shut up now, I need to focus.
No, but we know that, like, it's draining her and Jackson the more he does. So therefore I was like, oh, maybe he's just kind of going, if I take a back seat, you're going to have more power to be able to do whatever you need to do on the field.
Yeah. And I mean, the game, it's like, it's hard to describe these games in a podcast, but she ends up being the key element that helps to win the game because she passes the ball to Xavier at the last minute. And he's ultimately the one who, crosses, but without her, they likely wouldn't have won. And yeah, Hudson was quiet the entire time, and it was Grace right at the end that made it possible for the team to win. So that's a good theory that he was feeding her energy the whole time. But I just liked how this whole scene, when she realizes that she can get the ball, like she's just like, oh my God, I'm helping. Like, because that's how I would feel if I was like, would you pass the ball if you thought that you had the opportunity to win a game as non-sporty as we both are? Or would you go ahead and pass it?
It depends on how sure the win was. Like, if it was really easy and I knew, like, I'm not going to look like an absolute tit if I get this in. You know what I mean? Like, if you've got like a line open but you still then have to run a very long time and you think, yeah, but could I cost our team the win by taking this for myself, knowing I'm probably not the best candidate?
Yeah.
Then I would throw it to somebody else. But even that, I'd probably cock up and miss the throw. And then like completely fluff the throw.
I was wide open. What were you doing? Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not very good at sports.
So do you want to get into spoilers? Because I've got a few, and I think you've got some too.
Yes.
All right. All right. So you've actually got the first spoiler.
So Grace says that Jackson sometimes gets jealous when she hangs out with Flint. And I thought that was interesting.
You know what? That went... and I was reading it looking for Jackson and Flint things, and that went completely over my head. Because
Go ahead.
Yeah. No, I read it. I read it as as Tracy probably intended.
Because a guy doesn't get jealous over you hanging out with a guy, because then he will just try and take him more instead of... Do you know what I mean? He'd be like, well, instead of you hanging out with Flint, why didn't you come out and hang out with me? He doesn't. He just gets all like bristly anytime she suggests that she should go hang out with Flint. And then he's like, well, I'll join you.
Yeah.
And it's like, is it Grace that you want to be near or Flint?
Yeah.
I don't know. That sentence just like landed differently for me reading it through the second time. Or third time.
And it went totally over my head. I was just thinking that maybe Grace was misinterpreting the signals, which I mean, she would be misinterpreting them, but I wasn't taking it as Jackson was jealous because he wanted to cozy up with Flint.
Yeah. And the way that it also said that the bond wouldn't snap into place until they were aware of their sexuality. Maybe Jackson isn't yet.
That's true too, because even in court, like there are definitely clues that that Jackson was feeding off of Flint.
Yep, and hanging out with him more, like cozying up to him, being comforted by him as well, because obviously he's going through a hard time. New heart and all that. He's his like heart transplant support crew. This Flint.
Yeah, it's almost like Jackson. I don't know. It's like maybe Tracy's gonna write it as, because Flint came out, relatively smoothly, but maybe because Jackson comes from kind of an abusive like upbringing, maybe Jackson is a little bit more nervous to be open.
Yeah.
About his sexuality. Maybe he's more afraid of judgment because Flint came from a loving family with loving parents who accepted him. I mean, he was nervous about telling them, but even Yuri had said something about like knowing that it had always, like Jackson,
it had always been him. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But maybe Jackson doesn't feel as confident yet. And maybe Tracy wants to write it so that she doesn't just kind of make it seem like, oh, coming out is always going to be this seamless, perfect thing. Maybe she wants to also portray that sometimes it's okay to take your time and to not just jump straight into it.
Yeah.
So, and yeah, what I had said was these chapters really confirm my suspicion that Jackson and Flint were supposed to be mated. But the mating bond crafted by the blood letter between Jackson and Grace maybe prevented that magic from being able to take hold. And that because Flint still feels it. Flint says that he knows, like in his bones, that he's supposed to be mated to Jackson. But maybe
just because Jackson was unable to create another bond doesn't mean that the person that he was supposed to create a bond with wasn't aware of it.
Yeah.
And the way that Flint says that it's almost like he wasn't able to let the magic just open up and let the bond be accepted. And that's exactly pretty much what the blood letter said would happen, is that it wouldn't work. It wouldn't let him until he had that bond with Grace.
And so Flint can feel the full like impact of it and the pain of it.
Yeah.
But Jackson is just he's kind of numb to it. He's oblivious to it. He might have like some feelings because he kind of shows them, he admires Flint from afar, but at the same time, he's obviously crazy about Grace, which, that's the mating bond being in place there. So yeah, I hope that we get more answers in Cherish, because I was hoping that we got them in court. And I mean, we got some, but Jackson and Flint haven't gotten the happy ending that I've been waiting for. And I hope that we get that like in Cherish. Because we won't get it in Charm, obviously.
No. Unless she also works that out, because Hudson might have had a different perspective of watching his brother growing up, knowing that he was probably gay.
That's true too. I mean, unless Jackson hasn't let anybody on to it.
No. But then he would have also seen him interact with Flint as well. But then they didn't grow up together, did they? So no, they don't have the normal sibling relationship because they were separated.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, the next note is mine. And Flint says, like, a few times the mating bond even snaps into place between more than two people. And I was like, if Tracy doesn't write a smutty supernatural spin-off about a reverse harem, I'm going to be well disappointed. Just pick one person from the school, could be completely just pointless person within the school, and they get a bond between, like, 2 or 3. Oh, yes, do it.
It's going to be Remy's story.
Oh, Remy.
Get a sexy Southern Sexy Southern threesome.
With his, like, pride of women.
Well, he's lost Calder, so... But I think that this was supposed to be about his school, like, growing up.
Maybe.
I think that we're getting his, like, backstory.
Did he go to school? I thought he was born in a prison. They have schools.
Oh, you're right. I thought that... You're right. He wouldn't have gone to school because he was born in the prison. But they did refer in the like... Hold on, darn it. I've got it in a Trello card somewhere. Okay, I've got it. So it says, when mysterious warlock Remy name enters a deadly academy for rogue paranormal, secrets are everywhere and nothing is as it seemed for the thrilling new spin-off series. Okay, so...
He's going to a school.
He's going to go to a school, which means that Calder is dead. Remy is sad. He's going to a deadly academy for rogue paranormals.
He's going to meet up with Cam and kill him.
Oh yeah, because Cam is in the bad boys school.
Yeah. He's in the correctional facility.
The correctional facility. Yeah.
I wonder why he's going to the school. He has to have a reason for going. Like, what's his motive for going to a school?
Well, he could just be like, I was born in a prison.
He's gonna. What is that program? The program where they get like prisoners to talk to children.
Beyond Scared Straight. Yeah.
He's gonna sit there in an orange jumpsuit in a chair with his legs spread wide, his arms on either thigh, and just go. This is my experience of being in a prison.
We made Amber watch Scared Straight when she was here.
You think you're tough?
Give me your shoes. Yeah. Making these kids crying because it's awful. These kids, though, they're awful. They like beat on their moms and stuff. They take them into prisons and make them talk to inmates. And I mean, it works. An astounding amount of those, it'll tell you at the end whether or not the kids improved. And a lot of them do. A lot of them don't, but a lot of them do. So it must work. So my last note is that big court spoilers here, as if we haven't had a bunch of those already. But Nuri holds the comet and is holding it up over her head and to start the game, and the crowd goes wild, and Grace doesn't get it at first. But then Hudson explains that normally the longest that anybody can hold it is like 3 seconds. Wait, 3 seconds? 30 seconds?
I don't know, but Jackson said that he could hold it for 2 minutes without the pain being excruciating. So
okay, it was Jackson then, yeah. So 2 minutes. You can't hold it for very long. But Nuri ends up holding it for like 5 minutes, and everybody's freaking out, and it doesn't burn her. So could this now mean, since Jackson is now Draxon? Does that mean that he is now heat resistant since he has Nuri's heart? Has he taken on... Is he a fireproof vamp dragon?
A dragon? A drampire?
Drampire?
Maybe. He doesn't seem to be a dragon trait because Flint still struggles to hold the comet.
Yeah, it's just her.
So it's just Nuri's heart. So yeah, maybe. Also, can there be a queen who can't have a dragon?
I don't know, and I've been wondering if that's going to cause problems, if the circle is going to make somebody else.
Who's even left in the circle? It's just the werewolf people.
The wolves and the witches.
Who are rubbish, by the way.
Yeah, the wolves and the witches. And if Nuri and Aiden are out, that would mean that Flint would have to take their place, which means Flint would need to get, actually confirm his mating with Jackson, which would also be the first gay
mixed pair as well.
Pair. Yeah, because they said, even Grace said that, that there needs to be what did she say? A kick-ass gay dragon couple on the circle, which would kind of confirm what Grace has
It
already
would also make
suggested.
the addition of Jackson to the circle as a dragon mate more palatable because he is a dragon.
And also he's already a prince.
Yeah.
Which would leave the slot of vampire king open to Hudson.
But he's the gargoyle king.
He is the gargoyle king. So there's going to be, either way, the vampire spot is going to be open unless...
Well, it's going to be in Isadora, isn't it?
Isadora, yeah. Isadora could totally fill that spot, and then...
With her craziness.
Yeah. It's weird that Hudson would be gargoyle king when he is a vampire.
He doesn't want power.
Yeah, it's just...
So he's letting Grace, the terrible gargoyle queen who has absolutely no clue how to run things, do it all. And then he's just there as the support, like cheerleader, like, woo, you go, Grace.
That would mean 4 vampires are on the circle. That's kind of monopolizing the circle.
Bit of a power trip there.
Yeah, because Jackson's still a vampire. He can turn into a dragon, but he's still a vampire. Isadora is a vampire. Did Isadora...
I think it's Remy.
Remy? Okay.
The way that they interacted, it felt like Remy knew, but Isadora didn't.
Yeah.
Because Remy can see into the future.
And then Hudson is a vampire. And so that would be 4 vampires, 3 witches, 1 gargoyle, 1 dragon. And then the wolves.
1.5 dragons.
1.5 dragons. Yeah. Okay. Interesting. All right. Did you have anything else?
That was everything.
Okay. All right. Well, guys, thanks so much for listening. This episode ran a little longer, but I think this was fun. We had a fun one today. Lots of fun things. Yeah, guys, make sure that you check the Crave the Book Podcast YouTube channel. If you search Crave the Book Podcast on YouTube, you should find it. Because every Sunday you get a new ASMR. I posted the Ludares on Saturday, just because I was so excited about it. But feel free to...
Don't listen to the post that has just been posted in the Wolfpack either. Because that says that it will be the last one. But that was from last year.
Yeah, that was from... No, it was early February. I don't know why that one just now got approved. It must have got pushed to the bottom of the pile. But yeah, I don't know. Brittany's busy. She's been really active in the group today, so she must have just been trying to do some cleanup. And she was like, "Oh crap, there's an episode a post I didn't approve." So,
before we go, do we want to talk about the pushback of the book?
Sure. Yeah. Do you have the dates on hand?
I will go get them whilst you fill up the silence.
Okay. So a couple days ago, Tracy announced that unfortunately the books have both been pushed back. Charm has been pushed back because she is not completely finished with it. And she would have been finished with it in time for the launch date, but her mother passed away. I've spoken to Tracy personally a couple times on Instagram, and her mother was in hospice care and hadn't been doing very well. For those who are unaware, hospice is your final stage before you pass away. You go into hospice care right before you're going to pass away. They help to make things more comfortable. Exactly. So her mother, I believe, was living at home with Tracy, and Tracy was caring for her. So that already had to be insanely hard. And then her mother passed away, and Tracy was expected to still hit all these book deadlines and write what is ultimately I'm assuming Charm is going to be a happy story, and trying to write a happy story when you're that upset and not knowing what to do with yourself after someone that you've been taking care of for so long has passed away. It's got to be hard for her. So Charm got pushed back, which also pushes Cherish back. And obviously that will also push Remy's stories back as well. We didn't have a date for Remy's story. Oh, no, we did. It was September 27th, 2022. But that one will likely not come out until 2023 as well. So, Amber, do you have the dates for them?
I do, but I feel like they're wrong. I feel like they're still the old ones. So I'm going onto Entangled Teens website to check because it says 26th of July, 2022 for Charm.
That's correct.
That's correct. So yeah, Charm has been pushed back 2 months because it was supposed to be this month.
That's not that long. I believe that if you go to katmereacademy.com, you can find the release date.
Yes, and Cherish was expected to be on the 8th of November, but it's been pushed back to 2023.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what date.
But for all of the updates, guys, if you need updates on Crave, you can find them all located at the new website, katmereacademy.com.
Ooh.
So I like it. There's lots of updates. They've got a merch store. It's pretty nifty, but all right. Awesome. Well, guys, thank you so much for hanging out. And as long as this episode works correctly, unlike last week's, we will see you next week.
Bye-bye.